do it until this has hit. I know, Patrick Mac. Let's start going through this. So they fixed the leader power exploit that resulted in earning leader points at a faster rate. So as we know, it's not just the living barrier, it's more than that, but living barrier is the most impactful because that drops the most of the objects that cause this. So that's good. That's really good. They can finally revert the cost to 0-0, and that should be nice. Fix an issue which allowed players to control opposing team units. Yeah, that's disgusting. I'm very glad they fixed it finally. It was about time, to be honest. We got an invite here. He added me as a friend. Yes, I need to do that as well. After. So let's go into the balance category. We got the infusion damage reduced by 8%. Okay, fine. I don't think the DPS itself was the problem. It was mostly the duration, but luckily they've changed that. I don't think these numbers are enough in any way. Like, this is still gonna... I don't know the exact duration off the top of my head, but pretty much all of them last over 40-something seconds, right? So this will be a change that is pretty minuscule. They've taken off a bunch of seconds again. It's baby steps. And basically the map will remain painted. And there is a glitch, actually, that makes vehicles kind of jitter left and right as they go on any slowing area thing. So it also happens on Serena's Ice, which is why the slow effects on these need to be very, very low. That's going to be a change that I'll need to also add to my topic. But yeah, the duration is still going to be very, very high, and it will be very, very easy to set up this, especially with all the tools that Wardus has. Blitz, yep. Of course, that also needs the reduction, but most of us watching don't play Blitz, so that's a different topic. Thanks for the follow for this. Infusion tech, damage scaling reduced, which is good. This is basically a revert to what they've increased. That was necessary, that's good. Certainly they didn't want to buff it, but they did buff it, so I don't understand why that even happened. The Corrupted Warlord is the Vordus hero, and the Mortar Warlord is the Pavium hero, for those of you who aren't sure. So the trail duration ability for Vordus has been reduced by 30 seconds. That's a big reduction. That is nice. That is kind of the direction that this should go. It should be difficult to set up infusion because everything has infusion. If everything has infusion, then you're going to have it everywhere, and you're always going to be ready to combust it into either a Cataclysm or... oh, the heal ability, I forgot suddenly. Maelstrom and Cataclysm. Okay, so this is the first thing that we're going to have to really talk about and actually make a display of what happens. You cannot dodge Maelstrom. This is not the problem. It's part of the problem. I agree that you could reduce the duration to allow escaping from it alive. But let me show you something. A clip from my own stream of what I've done a while ago. Escaping from it alive. But let me show you something. Shut up, me. Alright, popular clips should be fine. Blah, blah, blah. No. Top 30 days, yes. So in case you haven't seen this... Excuse the lag, but... Yep. So... How do you dodge this? Let's go back, actually. Let's rewatch that and actually focus a bit on how quickly that thing lands. We're gonna take off the quality a bit here to load faster. Okay, watch this. From here on out. Okay, I roughly stopped at 14. Now watch how quickly. What is that? I've already triggered Cataclysm and they're trapped. That's it. It was... what? That's still a 5 over there, okay? It's about to turn into a 6. So it's a 1 second warning and it immediately captures you. And then you die. This is not a balanced power. This needs to be way slower in showing that it's going to happen. The player needs a chance to escape this power. It's too devastating. It can kill an entire army, and even if you increase the cooldown by 2 minutes, they'll need to rebuild an entire army. They're not going to do that in 2 minutes. Which is roughly what's the actual cooldown of it gonna be? It's gonna be like 3 minutes, right? So you're gonna have this entire duration of remaking an army where you still have most of your own army left. Can exert an advantage. Then you go over there and pick off their units as they come out. So yeah, Maelstrom is definitely the most overpowered thing about Vordus, and these help, but they don't help you with dodging it, which is a very core mechanic to the leader powers in general. You should be able to dodge any and all leader powers if you skillfully execute your unit control. Cataclysm, I think it's just a bit fast in DPS, and it doesn't really have counterplay. So how do you escape it, right? Together with Maelstrom especially, your options would be teleport, which is, it's common, it happens, or you got the unbreakable ability for Atriox. That's a solution. But something like restoration drones, or just having healers in your army, nope, they all get evaporated way before any of that matters. Now, if you prolong the power, and if it does a little bit less DPS, but overall the same amount of damage over a longer duration, then healing matters. And that's, I think, a place where we should be. This is nice, but again, isn't fixing the core of the issue, which is that this combo traps an entire army, and there's no escaping it without teleport. If you don't have teleport, you're kind of screwed. Brute Grenadier, they did need a DPS increase. We'll have to see what the numbers actually do. Now, A Solid Conviction, I believe, had a clip where he made a lot of Brute Grenadiers, and we're actually going to show that. And he did a Cataclysm, right? So we're going to quickly try and find that. Did he call it Cataclysm? I don't know. We're just going to go through these. There weren't that many posts. Yes. Okay, watch this. Poof! Cataclysm! That's Cataclysm. Let's go back there. Okay, so if the Brute Grenadiers have their max upgrades, they're actually popping down tiny areas of infusion goo, right? And those can be combusted. Now, if they're close next to each other and both are covering the same unit, those little drools of goo will be doing their whole damage as many times they exist. And then you get this. That's a lot of little blobs of goo. Just let that sink in. What if I teleport my my brute grenadiers into your army, have the third upgrade, and then cast Cataclysm? What are you gonna do about that? Teleport out? Do an invulnerability and run away? Okay, some leaders can do that, but what if you're UNSC? What if you don't have invulnerability? What if it's on cooldown? There needs to be a way to escape these powers in a fair and just movement-based way. Pavium. Oh wait, there's okay. If they suck up the infusion, that's gonna be also stronger. So that's nice. I mean, the core unit itself, when it's fighting, is weak. This is that previous clip that I just showed. That's the problem with the Brute Grenadier. They're a bit expensive early on to field, and I wouldn't technically ever recommend anyone to make them in tier 1 and tier 2. I'd only ever make them for this. I want to say it's an exploit level balance problem, really. But I do think we need to show these because, as we'll find out later on, there's a lot of stuff missing that hasn't gone very widely announced that we'll show later in videos or playtests that we'll do later on in the stream. And I'll actually create a playlist of it on YouTube. Okay, so arming delay increased on the ultramines. That's very good because it's hard to escape them. The problem is that even if it lasts 1 second longer, later down we'll see that the Pavium viability actually hasn't been reduced in terms of what it does for slowing. The two together are devastating and cannot be escaped if you don't have teleport or invulnerability. Again, some of the leaders are lucky here, but invulnerability itself is not enough because you can just wait for a recharge. Now, they did increase that recharge. I think this is trying to be that. There is another one here, right? No. Wait a second. What is this cooldown? Let's see. Oh, yeah, here. The Pavium viability cooldown is increased by 10 seconds. It's not relevant because you can combo it with 2 leader powers, right? And both leader powers can nuke an entire army, which we'll demonstrate later. And in the YouTube video, I should have it tagged. Okay. So this is a good change. Yes, if you make the decision to siphon up the infusion, then that should buff your unit, sure, because you're taking away a big part of your game plan that does damage, right? And secures areas. So yes, it should bring a positive effect, and it currently doesn't really. So that's nice. And this part is good, increasing the cost a little bit. Not too impactful. It's Pavium after all, and he's got burnout. But it does something at least. And a little bit more cooldown. Okay, you won't nuke the armies as often, but you'll still nuke them and you'll still kill entire armies when it happens. Same thing for level 2, same comments. Pavium stand. Okay, it wasn't game defining. It's a powerful ability that generally gets picked as the 4th point, but doesn't necessarily have to be. It's a good one. The reduction definitely won't make things worse, although I don't think it was super important to do that. It's probably healthier because it is an invulnerability mechanic, and there should be a limit to how effective those are. Just think about it. You can counter stuff like an entire Inferno with this as a 4th point versus a 5th point. So yeah, it's good that it's more expensive now. I'd argue it might even need to be a bit more expensive because it's map wide. Alright, Lich Vanguard. Health and damage increase slightly. Okay, I mean, this was kind of requested already, right? So that's a good thing. It wasn't really a point that you wanted to pick as your fifth. It's like a super late game support point that you use to help break bases. But until then, you can just kind of defend and murder army after army. And then when you're strong enough, you can kind of push out, use this, and be a bit more aggressive with mega turret support as well. But what makes Pavium really overpowered is the viability combo with his offensive leader powers. Not necessarily anything else about him. Maybe the mega turrets a little bit. Rain of Fire. Cooldown increased. Damage per second reduced by 5%. Okay, what happens if I'm in a 3v3 and all 3 enemies pop a Rain of Fire on my base? What am I supposed to do? Just... This isn't gonna do anything, guys. You need to reduce the building damage like suggested. It's super, super essential. It just breaks the fun in 3v3 when your base gets absolutely demolished. Alright, the Mortar Warlord, so the Pavium hero. Y ability designate a splash damage. Damage reduction scaling reduced? What? Oh, okay. Okay, so when the viability paints something or the projectiles hit something, that hit unit will be doing less damage, and this is reducing that factor of how much weaker they get. So they'll be not as weak anymore in terms of what damage they do after they get hit by the designator or the actual... No, it's just the viability, actually. And this is its AoE, which is further reduced. Okay. Okay, the point of that viability isn't so much the damage, although it's pretty crazy, but definitely not the reduction of the damage. That's not the powerful part of it whatsoever. The powerful part is that it slows down units to a crawl, and you can pop an aggressive leader power on it. This doesn't even matter. Neither does the amount of damage they take. As in, it reduces the armor of units, basically. That also doesn't matter. What matters about this is the DPS and the slow. Anti-air vehicles. Oh my good god. Can anyone factually tell me that Wolverines and Reavers do not counter air? Because they do, and they counter them to an extent where at a high level, air units, the core tier 2 air units, and arguably to a degree, the support units are unusable. Okay, so when people are complaining that they cannot handle mass air or air rush, that's a very, 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 very bad change to make, and later on we'll demonstrate. Again, I'll be probably tagging this video at this point with a new video on that test. But this change should absolutely be reverted. This shouldn't be done whatsoever. Patrick Mack says that Reavers don't counter Sentinels. Sentinels are overpowered. That's a different topic. Nightingales are usable. They're not to a great degree because they'll be taken out one by one. At a very high count, they are, yeah. But how do you get there? Anti-vehicle versus... and anti-air free vehicles. So they're buffing the anti-vehicles, which is... okay. Maybe a bit on the extreme side. I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure they need that much. So medium is covering the Warthogs, the Marauders, the Mantis, and the Kodiak, and the Locust. So against all of those, the anti-vehicle units will be that much better now. Hi, Dave. By itself, it's okay. By itself, it's okay, but then there's this part. We're gonna get back to this. So Cyclops hit point increased by 5%. Okay, fine, but Hunter hit points increased by 5%. So let's start off with the fact that a 5% increase to each means that the Cyclops gets a smaller buff than the Hunter. Okay, because the Hunter's base hit points are significantly greater than that of the Cyclops. And as we'll demonstrate later, again, future video link on YouTube will be at this point. The Hunter does better currently against tier 2 vehicles than the Cyclops by a lot in direct fights. So if we're buffing the Hunter more than the Cyclops, then that will still be not feeling right. I think the Cyclops needs this, but the Hunter, I'd take this one out. Okay, this stuff. Tier 3 vehicle versus medium increased by 20%. So the Warthogs, core vehicles, the Locust, and the Kodiak. I'm unsure if it's necessary again because the medium vehicles already get crushed by them. You just need to have a sufficient number and at least one upgrade. Again, we'll demonstrate this. Medium AA, so it's the Wolverine and Reaver, get a massive debuff against tank, basically. It's the same situation as with the other guys. They'll take a lot of damage already. Scouts, I don't think that's relevant whatsoever. Who has scouts when facing against tanks? I don't think it matters. So there's no need to talk about it. It can be done without problem. But these two, I'm not sure, because it would be nice to still see the tier 2 vehicles be able to contest a bit against the tanks, but largely have to rely on the mobility. Now, if we buff the tier 3 tanks too much, you get into a situation where the tier 2 vehicles cannot fight whatsoever. I think that isn't very nice. It's more dynamic if both are options and tier 3 doesn't just override the need to have tier 2 vehicles. Canister shell, yeah, that's pretty much what was requested. It might be a bit too much with the AoE increase. I think we can be on board with this. Just need to see how it actually does. Grizzly missile barrage, why? Why is that being buffed? Grizzlies are in a really, really strong spot right now. And increasing that, I'm not sure. Although it's largely looking to... Yeah, I think we need to test it. But as a single target weapon, it will become stronger. So I'm really not sure about it. Forge is, without a doubt, the strongest leader right now. Kind of competing with Arbiter for that, with the Phantoms. The Phantoms we've been complaining about for a very long time, so I really hope that something can be done about that in an emergency format. So the problem with Phantom, again, we'll do a video for this, is that with Conduit of Rage at level 2 and arguably at level 2, but definitely at level 3, they're just unkillable every time Conduit of Rage is procced. And if you got the Arbiter with that, then that's an additional source. So yeah, not nice. And you can't kill the Arbiter here on tier 1 if you micro well. So yeah. Rave Scorch is increased. So damage per second, I have to think that it's not the impact damage, right? But then again, you're saying damage per second here, so that doesn't make any sense at all. The Grizzly Missile Barrage is a damage on impact, not a damage per second weapon, so... I'm confused as to which part is being buffed. If it's impact, it's scary. If it's the damage over time part, the plasma pool that it leaves behind, it's okay. But yeah, Grizzlies and Forge Hog together, like Sad Joker is saying, oh my good god. The fact right now is that everyone goes fast tier 2, okay? And there's nothing being done to target that. It absolutely needs to happen. That's the number one thing that should have happened in this patch. And there's a lot of fluff in here that we don't need as much. But with everyone opening fast tier 2 off of one generator, we really, really, really need that fixed because tier 1 gameplay is non-existent, okay? You have to go into tier 2, and now that anti-vehicle will work, your result will be that people will be picking up the 2 generator builds, and then they can make the counter units and the counter unit blobs and actually compete with the vehicles, hopefully. I'm not sure if that will be the possibility, but who knows. Photos asking if Wraiths are really good. No, not right now. This might be putting them back into the dangerous territory, though. Once the Wraith Scorch was really powerful, and this might get back to it. It depends on which component they buffed. If it's the Plasma Pool, it's fine. If it's the impact damage of the Scorch, then who knows? We'll see. We'll see. I don't want to make a prediction on that. So anyway, tier 2. Okay, so you get tier 2 at 240. You have a turret up and the second one on the way. You have 2 mini bases and you can triple pump freaking hogs. Okay? There's no rush that can prevent this. If there is a rush that gets there, it will be small enough that the one turret, when upgraded to anti-infantry, will take care of everything. Now, this is the UNSC infantry turret, so that's a two-part issue. One is that tier 2 is just too fast, okay? It can't come online this fast. Tier 1 guys need to have some time to get an advantage against it with map control if they play normal, like Marines or Grunts or Scouts. Those guys need some time to do something with their map control. Because if you got 4 Hogs against my 10 Marines, then I'm gonna lose real hard. If I got 15 Marines, a Spartan, and something like that, or the banished equivalent of 20 Grunts and a hero, I'm gonna put some real hurt on those Hogs coming out of a base, but if I don't have the numbers, I have no chance, and currently that's the case. So with these changes, we will still have to go tier 2, as that interaction changes not at all. And yeah, the rushing in tier 1 also needs to be a viable option. But if it is a viable option, then the Jackrabbits and other scouts need to be better. And all of this is described in the big forum post that I'm sure everyone has already seen, and on YouTube it will be in the description. Now let's get into the testing part of all these various things. What do we start with?